Marcus Webb's hands were steady as he emptied the wastebasket beside the conference table, but his eyes kept drifting to the whiteboard. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and the executive floor of Caldwell Technologies was supposed to be empty. The remains of the day littered the room: half-drunk coffee cups with lipstick marks, printed spreadsheets covered in frustrated red ink, a half-eaten sandwich someone had abandoned hours ago. The whiteboard dominated the far wall, 12 feet of complex mathematical notations and algorithmic sequences that had been erased and rewritten so many times the surface bore ghost images of previous attempts. At the top, someone had written in angry capital letters, "Compression Algorithm. Deadline Friday." Marcus paused, his garbage bag hanging forgotten in his left hand. He was 52 years old, had been cleaning offices in downtown Seattle for 18 years, and had developed the ability to become invisible in plain sight. People walked past him in hallways without seeing him. They had entire conversations as if he were furniture, but the numbers on that board, they saw him. His daughter Keisha's voice echoed in his memory from their argument that morning. "You act like you're happy being invisible, Dad. Like you don't matter." The equation was wrong. Not completely, but there was an error in the third sequence, a recursion loop that would cause the entire algorithm to collapse under heavy data loads. Marcus could see it the way other people could see a crooked picture frame. He set down the garbage bag. The rational part of his mind, the part that had kept him employed and unremarkable for nearly 2 decades, told him to finish his shift and leave. But his hand was already reaching for the eraser. The sound of the elevator chiming made him freeze. Footsteps approached, confident and quick. Richard Caldwell appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened, his $50 million smile dimmed by exhaustion. The CEO of Caldwell Technologies stopped when he saw Marcus standing at the whiteboard, eraser in hand. "I thought everyone had gone home," Caldwell said. His tone wasn't unkind, but it carried the assumption of someone used to spaces clearing when he entered them. Marcus stepped back, already formulating an apology. "I was just the trash. I'll finish and get out of your way, Mr. Caldwell." But Caldwell's eyes had moved to the whiteboard, then back to Marcus, then to the eraser in his hand. Something shifted in his expression. "Were you about to erase my team's work?" "No, sir. I apologize. I shouldn't have touched it." Caldwell walked into the room, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floor. He studied the whiteboard for a long moment, then looked back at Marcus with an expression that was difficult to read. "You know what this is?" Marcus hesitated. The truth sat in his throat like a stone. "Looks like code, sir." "It's a compression algorithm. My team has been working on it for 3 months. We've got a presentation to potential investors tomorrow, and we can't get it to work." Caldwell's laugh was hollow. 23 MIT and Stanford graduates, combined salaries that could buy a small island, and we're stuck. The silence stretched between them. Marcus could hear the hum of the building's HVAC system, the distant sound of traffic on Fifth Avenue 15 floors below. Caldwell pulled out one of the leather conference chairs and sat down heavily. "You know what the problem is, don't you?" It wasn't really a question. Marcus felt his heart hammering against his ribs. "Mr. Caldwell, I should really solve what my team couldn't," Caldwell said, and there was something dangerous in his smile. "And I'll leave. I'll walk out of this building right now and let you finish your shift in peace. That's the deal." Marcus knew it was a joke, the kind of throwaway comment powerful people made when they were tired and frustrated. But Caldwell gestured to the whiteboard with an expression that was half challenge, half desperation. "I'm serious. Show me." Marcus's hands were shaking as he picked up the marker. Every instinct told him to decline, to back away, to preserve the careful invisibility that had protected him for years. But his mind was already moving through the sequences, seeing the patterns, understanding the solution with a clarity that felt like muscle memory. He started writing. The marker squeaked against the board as he made corrections, added notations, restructured the recursion sequence. His handwriting was cramped and unpracticed compared to the confident strokes of Caldwell's team, but the mathematics flowed through him like water finding its level. Caldwell stood up, moving closer. Marcus was intensely aware of the CEO's proximity, the expensive cologne, the rustle of his shirt. He kept writing, faster now, filling in the gaps, showing how the compression could be achieved with less than half the computational load. When he finished, his hand was cramping. He stepped back, suddenly terrified of what he'd done. Caldwell stared at the whiteboard. The silence extended for 10 seconds. 20, 30. Marcus watched the CEO's face transform, confusion giving way to comprehension, comprehension to disbelief, disbelief to something that looked almost like anger. "Where did you learn this?" The question came out quiet, controlled, but Marcus heard the edge beneath it. "I used to study mathematics, a long time ago. Used to study." Caldwell turned to face him fully. "What does that mean? Where? When?" Marcus felt the story trying to stay buried, but Caldwell's gaze demanded truth. "MIT. I was there for 2 years, early 90s, full scholarship. I had to leave." "Why?" "My wife got pregnant. We needed money immediately, not in 2 years. I took a job meant to go back, but—" Marcus gestured vaguely at the garbage bag on the floor. "Life happened." Caldwell walked to the whiteboard, touched the equations Marcus had written. He pulled out his phone and took several photos. Then he looked at Marcus with an intensity that made the janitor want to step backward. "What's your name?" "Marcus Webb, sir." "Marcus." Caldwell said the name like he was tasting it. "Do you understand what you just did? That algorithm is worth approximately $80 million in our next funding round. My team has been stuck on that exact problem for 6 weeks. Marcus felt sick. "I should go." "No." Caldwell's voice was sharp. "No, you shouldn't. Sit down." It wasn't a request. Marcus lowered himself into one of the conference chairs, acutely aware of his janitor's uniform, the smell of cleaning chemicals on his hands, the vast gulf between him and the man standing at the whiteboard. Caldwell paced, his mind clearly racing. I need to verify this with my team. But if you're right, and I think you are, this changes everything. I need you to come to the presentation tomorrow, 10 a.m. this same room." "Mr. Caldwell, I work nights. I have another job during the day at—" "I'll pay you for your time, $500 just to sit in that room for an hour. If this algorithm works, we'll talk about something more permanent." Marcus felt the world tilting. "I'm not. I'm a janitor." "Clearly, you're not just a janitor." Caldwell's expression softened slightly. "Look, I know this is unusual, but you solved in 10 minutes what my team couldn't solve in weeks. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's—" He shook his head. "Just come tomorrow, 10 a.m., please." The please surprised them both. Marcus nodded slowly, not trusting his voice. Caldwell walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. "Marcus, thank you. And I'm sorry." "For what, sir?" "For all the times I walked past you and didn't see you." After Caldwell left, Marcus sat alone in the conference room for another 20 minutes, staring at the whiteboard. His daughter's words echoed again. "Like you don't matter." He picked up the garbage bag and finished his shift, but everything felt different now, the weight of the trash, the sound of his footsteps, the reflection in the darkened windows. He was still invisible, but he'd left visible proof of his existence written in blue marker on a 12-foot whiteboard. His phone buzzed at 1:15 a.m. as he was clocking out. A text from an unknown number. "This is Richard Caldwell. I ran the algorithm through our simulation software. It works. You just saved this company. See you at 10. Don't be late." Marcus stood in the empty lobby, watching rain begin to streak the windows, and wondered what he'd just set in motion. Marcus arrived at Caldwell Technologies at 9:42 a.m., wearing the only suit he owned, a charcoal grey he'd bought for his mother's funeral 3 years ago. It still smelled faintly of mothballs, despite his attempts to air it out. The security guard who'd waved him through countless times during night shifts looked at him twice before recognition dawned. "Marcus? Damn, man, I almost didn't recognize you. What's the occasion? Meeting with Mr. Caldwell?" The guard's eyebrows rose. "For real? Good for you, man, good for you." But as Marcus rode the elevator to the 15th floor, he felt only dread pooling in his stomach. He'd barely slept. At 3 a.m., lying in his small apartment in Rainier Valley, he'd convinced himself that Caldwell would have forgotten the whole encounter, or worse, decided it had been inappropriate to invite a janitor to an executive presentation. Keisha had been asleep when he got home, and he'd been gone before she woke up for school. He hadn't told her anything. How could he explain something he didn't understand himself? The elevator doors opened to a different world than the one he inhabited at night. The 15th floor buzzed with activity. People in expensive clothes moving with purpose, conversations about quarterly projections and market positioning, the smell of expensive coffee from the break room. Marcus felt every eye turn toward him as he walked toward the conference room, though logically he knew most people barely glanced his way. Caldwell was already there. Along with 7 other people Marcus didn't recognize. The CEO looked up when Marcus entered, and something complicated crossed his face. Satisfaction mixed with uncertainty. "Marcus, good, you're early. Everyone, this is Marcus Webb. Marcus, this is my core team." A woman in her 30s with severe glasses and perfectly straight blonde hair looked Marcus up and down. "This is the janitor." The word landed like an accusation. Caldwell's jaw tightened. "This is the man who solved our compression problem. Title is irrelevant." But it wasn't irrelevant. Marcus could feel it in every forced smile, every exchanged glance, every too careful tone. He'd spent 18 years being invisible, and now he was hyper-visible in all the wrong ways. An older man with a neat beard, Dr. Chen, according to his nameplate, stood and offered his hand. "I reviewed your solution this morning. It's elegant. Where did you train?" "MIT, long time ago. I didn't finish." "Clearly, you absorbed enough." Chen's smile seemed genuine. "I'm looking forward to seeing what else you can do." The presentation started at 10 sharp. Marcus sat in the back corner, trying to occupy as little space as possible. The investors, 3 men and 1 woman, all dressed in variations of business casual that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent, filed in and took seats at the table. Caldwell stood at the whiteboard, confident and polished. He walked them through the technology, the market opportunity, the competitive advantages. When he reached the compression algorithm, he paused. "I'll be honest with you. Until yesterday, we were stuck. My team had hit a wall. The algorithm we'd developed worked, but it was inefficient, prone to failure under stress conditions." He turned to the board, where Marcus's corrections still remained. Then someone saw what we couldn't see. One of the investors, a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair, leaned forward. "Who?" Caldwell looked at Marcus. "Marcus Webb. Would you stand up, please?" Marcus felt his face flush hot as he stood, every eye in the room fixed on him. "Marcus is a member of our night staff. He also happens to have attended MIT and has an intuitive understanding of algorithmic structures that frankly surpasses most of my team." Caldwell's smile was tight. "He solved this problem in approximately 10 minutes. The silence in the room was deafening. The silver-haired investor's expression was unreadable. "Your janitor solved your coding problem?" "Yes." "And you're telling us this why exactly?" Caldwell didn't hesitate. Because I believe in transparency, and because I believe in giving credit where it's due. This algorithm is worth millions. Marcus deserves recognition for that. Marcus wanted to disappear into the floor. He could feel the skepticism radiating from the investors, the barely concealed resentment from some of Caldwell's team, the uncomfortable weight of being made into a symbol of something he didn't ask to represent. The presentation continued, but Marcus barely heard it. His mind was spinning with the implications of what was happening. This wasn't just about solving an equation. This was about disrupting an order, challenging assumptions, exposing the uncomfortable truth that intelligence didn't correlate with job titles. After the investors left, Caldwell pulled Marcus aside while the rest of the team filtered out. Dr. Chen lingered, along with the blonde woman, Dr. Sarah Vance, the chief technology officer. "That went well," Caldwell said, though his tone suggested uncertainty. "They're going to fund us. 80 million, just like I thought. And you want to give me credit?" Vance's voice was cold. "Do you understand the optics of this, Richard? We're telling our investors that our highly paid team couldn't do what a janitor did in 10 minutes. That's not a good look." "It's the truth," Caldwell shot back. "Truth is one thing, perception is another." Vance turned to Marcus, and her smile didn't reach her eyes. "No offense." "None taken," Marcus said automatically, though offense had definitely been given. Chen cleared his throat. "I think what Sarah means is that we need to be strategic about how we present this. Marcus clearly has skills we didn't know about. The question is what we do with that information." Caldwell nodded slowly. "Marcus, how much do we pay you currently?" $18 an hour. I work 40 hours a week, mostly nights." The number seemed to physically pain Caldwell. That's 37,000 a year. 37,440 actually. Sometimes I get overtime during busy periods." Vance made a noise that could have been a laugh or a scoff. "We pay our junior engineers 80,000 starting. Our senior algorithmic specialists make 200 plus. "I'm offering Marcus a position," Caldwell said suddenly. "Junior developer, 80,000 starting, full benefits, normal business hours." Marcus felt like he'd been punched. "Mr. Caldwell, you've earned it. More than earned it. I haven't coded professionally in over 20 years. I didn't even finish my degree. I've been cleaning offices since my daughter was born. Then you'll learn. We'll train you. You clearly have the aptitude." Vance crossed her arms. "Richard, can I speak with you privately?" They stepped out into the hallway, but their voices carried through the partially open door. Marcus and Chen stood in awkward silence, listening to muffled argument. Completely inappropriate. "Skilled labor is skilled labor. Setting a precedent we can't. Not your decision." When they returned, Vance's expression was stone. Caldwell looked determined but tired. "The offer stands," he said to Marcus. "Think about it. Take a few days if you need to." Marcus nodded, but his mind was already cataloguing the impossibilities. He had no degree. His last formal education in computer science was from 1994. He'd be working with people half his age, with credentials that stretched for pages. And there was Keisha to consider. His daughter was 16, angry, smart, and counting on him in ways he wasn't sure he could articulate. "Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. I'll think about it." As Marcus left the building, stepping back out into the grey Seattle morning, he checked his phone. 3 missed calls from his ex-wife, Denise. A text from his manager at his daytime job, a warehouse where he worked inventory control 4 days a week. "Where are you? You're scheduled today." His phone buzzed again. A news alert from a local tech blog. Caldwell Technologies lands $80 million in funding after breakthrough in data compression. Marcus stared at the headline, at his own reflection in his phone's darkened screen, and wondered who that person was anymore. He called his warehouse manager. "I need to take a personal day." "Marcus, you've never taken a personal day in 4 years. You okay?" "I don't know." Marcus said, and it was the most honest thing he'd said all morning. I really don't know. He took the bus home, watching the city slide past his window, the construction cranes crowding the skyline, the homeless camps under the overpasses, the coffee shops charging $7 for a latte. Seattle had changed so much in the 18 years he'd lived here, transforming from a comfortable middle-class city into a bifurcated world of tech wealth and service poverty. He'd learned to navigate it by staying invisible, by not wanting too much, by accepting his place in the order of things. Now someone was offering him a chance to cross that invisible line, and all he felt was fear. Keisha was cutting school again. He found her in the apartment, sitting on the couch with her laptop, working on something she closed quickly when he walked in. "Why aren't you at Roosevelt?" he asked. "Why aren't you at work?" They stared at each other, and Marcus saw so much of himself in her. The intelligence she tried to hide, the anger she didn't know what to do with, the sense of being trapped by circumstances neither of them had chosen. "Something happened," he said quietly. "I need to tell you something." He told her everything, the whiteboard, the algorithm, Caldwell's offer. Keisha listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through disbelief, excitement, suspicion, and something that might have been hope. When he finished, she said, "You're going to take it, right? Tell me you're taking it." "I don't know if I can do it, Keisha. It's been so long since—" "Dad." She stood up, and he was struck by how tall she'd gotten, how much she looked like Denise at that age. "You've been telling me my whole life to stay in school, to study hard, to not give up on my potential, and now you're going to walk away from this? It's more complicated than... It's always more complicated. That's what you say every time life gives you a chance." Her voice cracked. "I'm scared you're going to end up like Grandpa, working yourself to death for nothing, dying before you ever got to see what you could have been." Marcus's father had been a postal worker for 38 years, had died of a heart attack at 63, 3 months into retirement. The funeral had been small. The life insurance had barely covered the burial costs. "That's not fair," Marcus said, but it was fair, and they both knew it. "Take the job, Dad, please. If not for you, then for me. Show me that it's possible to change your life." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He stood at his kitchen window at 2 a.m., looking out at the city lights, thinking about all the lives happening simultaneously in all those lit windows. How many people were stuck in jobs they'd never wanted? How many had given up on dreams that still haunted them? How many were being given second chances they were too afraid to take? His phone was on the counter. At 2:37 a.m., he picked it up and composed a text to Richard Caldwell. "I'll take the position. Thank you for the opportunity. When do I start?" The response came 3 minutes later, which meant Caldwell was also awake in the pre-dawn darkness, also wrestling with something unnamed. "Monday. Welcome to the team, Marcus. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong there." Marcus set down his phone and realized his hands were shaking. Not from fear this time, from something else entirely. Marcus's first day at Caldwell Technologies as an official employee was a study in subtle hostility, dressed in professional courtesy. He was given an office, small, interior, no windows, a company laptop and a desk that still had someone else's coffee ring stained into the fake wood. The orientation packet was 3 inches thick. Jenny from HR walked him through benefits with practiced efficiency, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "You're very lucky, Mr. Webb. We don't usually hire at this level without a degree. Mr. Caldwell is really going out on a limb for you." The unspoken implication, "Don't make him regret it." He was assigned to Dr. Chen's team, which meant working under the man who'd been kind to him during the investor presentation. Chen himself was distant but professional, treating Marcus like a puzzle he hadn't quite figured out how to solve. The other team members, 5 engineers ranging from mid-20s to late 30s, treated him like an alien species. There was Derek, a Stanford grad with an edge of condescension in every interaction. "So you learned to code from books? That's quaint. Very Old Testament." Amanda, who barely looked up from her dual monitors when Marcus introduced himself. "Welcome. Coffee station is in the corner. Try not to break anything." Priya, who was at least polite, if uncomfortable. "Chen told us about your algorithm solution. That was impressive. I'm sure you'll catch up quickly." The first week was humiliating. Marcus discovered that his knowledge, while deep in certain theoretical areas, was hopelessly outdated in practical application. He didn't know the frameworks everyone used. His coding style was archaic. He asked questions that made people exchange glances. Derek took particular pleasure in these moments. "Did you just try to write that in C++? We haven't used C++ for that kind of operation in like 15 years, man." Marcus would go home each night exhausted, his head pounding, his confidence eroding. He'd sit at his kitchen table with tutorial videos playing on his laptop, trying to learn in weeks what others had learned over years of formal education. Keisha would bring him coffee, her presence both encouraging and accusatory. She'd wanted him to take this job, and now he couldn't quit without admitting she'd been wrong to believe in him. But there were small victories. When presented with abstract problems, Marcus could see solutions others missed. His mathematical intuition was still sharp, even if his technical skills were rusty. In team meetings, he would occasionally offer insights that made Chen pause and reconsider approaches. "You think differently than we do," Chen told him after one such meeting. "It's actually valuable, even if it doesn't feel that way yet." The real explosion came in week 3. Marcus was working late, had been working late every night, trying to prove he deserved to be there, when he overheard a conversation in the break room. He'd gone to refill his coffee, moving quietly out of old habits, and froze when he heard his name. "Honestly embarrassing. We're supposed to be an elite team, and we've got a charity case sitting in the corner, struggling with basic Git commands." Derek's voice was unmistakable. Amanda laughed. "Caldwell's PR stunt is getting old, the feel-good story of the janitor who knew math was cute for the investor pitch, but now we're stuck actually working with him. He slows down every project he touches," Derek continued. "We have to explain everything twice, and even then, maybe that's the point," a third voice interjected. "Priya, maybe Caldwell wants us to fail so he can justify cutting the whole department." Marcus stood in the hallway, coffee cup in hand, feeling each word like a physical blow. They weren't completely wrong. He did slow them down. He did need extra explanations. He was struggling. But hearing it articulated so clearly, so cruelly, made something crack inside his chest. He went back to his office, closed the door, and sat in the dark for 20 minutes. Then he opened his laptop and started working with a focus that bordered on obsessive. If they thought he was dead weight, he'd prove otherwise. If they needed him to fail, he'd succeed out of spite, if nothing else. At 11 p.m., he finally found it. A flaw in the current project's security protocol, a vulnerability that could have cost the company millions if exploited. It wasn't flashy like the algorithm, but it was real, significant, and entirely his discovery. He documented it, wrote up the solution, and sent it to Chen with a CC to the entire team. Chen responded within 15 minutes. "Marcus, this is excellent work. We're implementing this immediately. Well done." Derek's response came 5 minutes after that, to the whole team. "Good catch. Guess even a broken clock is right twice a day." Marcus stared at that email for a long time. Then he stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked out of the office. He didn't clock out. He just left. The bus ride home took 40 minutes. Long enough for the adrenaline to fade and the exhaustion to set in. He arrived at his apartment to find the door unlocked and voices inside. Denise was there, sitting at his kitchen table with Keisha, and both women looked at him with expressions that made his stomach drop. "We need to talk," Denise said. His ex-wife looked tired. She'd remarried 3 years ago to a man who worked in medical device sales, and they lived in a nice house in Bellevue with a yard and a golden retriever. Denise had wanted Keisha to move in with them permanently, to go to the better schools in their district, but Keisha had refused. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, though he knew. He'd known for weeks that something was building. Keisha wouldn't meet his eyes. Denise handed him a piece of paper, a disciplinary notice from Roosevelt High School. His daughter had been caught selling essay-writing services to other students. Not just writing essays, but sophisticated operations with pricing tiers and a whole business model. "How long?" Marcus asked quietly. "Since freshman year," Keisha said. "I made $11,000. The number stunned him. "What?" "Rich kids at Roosevelt don't want to do their own work. I'm good at writing. I charge $25 for a basic essay, up to $200 for research papers. I saved everything. I was going to use it for college since we both know financial aid isn't going to cover everything." Denise's voice was sharp. "She's been expelled, Marcus. Expelled. Do you understand what this means for her college applications? For her future?" Marcus sat down heavily. The entire evening, Derek's email, the overheard conversation, the security flaw, the impossible gap between where he was and where he needed to be, came crashing down on him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked Keisha. "When would I tell you? You're either at work or studying. You barely see me anymore, and when you do, you're so stressed and exhausted that I didn't want to add to it." "So you thought selling academic dishonesty was a better plan?" "I thought survival was the plan." Keisha's voice rose. "You work 2 jobs your whole life and barely make enough for us to live in this shitty apartment. Finally, you get a chance to do something better, and you're killing yourself trying to prove you deserve it. I saw an opportunity to make money, real money, using my actual skills. How is that different from what you're doing?" "It's different because it's cheating, it's undermining. The system," Keisha laughed bitterly, "the system is already rigged, Dad. Those kids at Roosevelt, their parents are dropping $100,000 on SAT tutors and college counselors. They'll get into Stanford or Yale or wherever because of connections and money. I'm just trying to get a piece of that." Denise stood up. "She needs structure. She needs to be in a stable environment. Marcus, I'm sorry, but I think she should move in with John and me, at least until this gets sorted out." "No," Marcus said immediately. "She's been expelled. She's been lying for 2 years. She's showing signs of—" "She's my daughter. We'll figure it out." "How?" "By working yourself to death at a job you're clearly not qualified for while your daughter falls apart." The words hung in the air like smoke. Keisha looked at her mother with betrayal in her eyes. Marcus felt something inside him go very still and very cold. "Get out," he said quietly. "Marcus, I said get out. Keisha stays with me. She made a mistake. We'll handle it. Together. But I don't need you coming into my home and telling me I'm not qualified to be her father." After Denise left, Marcus and Keisha sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Keisha said, "I'm sorry, Dad." "For which part?" "All of it. The essays. Getting caught. Making everything harder." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Mom's right, though. You're struggling with that job. I can see it." Marcus thought about the security flaw, about Derek's broken clock comment, about the late nights and the constant feeling of being 3 steps behind. "Maybe I am. But you know what? I'm learning, I'm getting better, and I'm not going to quit just because it's hard. Even if you hate it, I don't hate it. I hate feeling like I don't belong there. That's different." He looked at his daughter, brilliant, flawed, desperate, 16. "You want to know what I learned working as a janitor for 18 years? I learned that being invisible is safe. You can't fail if no one expects anything from you, but you can't succeed either. You can't grow. You just exist." "Is that what I'm doing? Just existing?" "I think you're scared, like I am. We're both terrified that we're not good enough, smart enough, that we don't deserve the things we want. So you took shortcuts, and I tried to stay invisible." He stood up, moved to the window. "But that's over now. For both of us. You're going to face consequences for what you did. We'll find you another school, or you'll do independent study, or whatever it takes. But you're not giving up, and neither am I." Keisha joined him at the window. Father and daughter stood side by side, looking out at the city that promised so much and demanded everything in return. "What if we both fail?" she asked quietly. "Then we fail trying," Marcus said. "That's worth something, isn't it?" The next morning, Marcus arrived at work early. He found Chen already in his office and knocked on the open door. "Marcus, good work last night on the security patch. Thank you. Can I talk to you about something?" Chen gestured to a chair. Marcus sat down, choosing his words carefully. "I overheard some of the team talking about me, about how I'm slowing everyone down, how I'm a charity case." Chen's expression darkened. "Marcus, they're not entirely wrong. I am slowing things down. I do need extra help. But I'm also learning faster than you probably realize, and I'm bringing perspectives that the team doesn't have. What I need to know is this. Do you want me here? Honestly. Not because Caldwell made you take me, but because you actually think I can contribute." Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I was skeptical at first. I'll be honest about that. But you've surprised me. Your solution last night alone justified your presence here. And more than that, you're making the rest of the team think differently. Derek's a brilliant coder, but he's rigid. Amanda's creative, but lacks theoretical grounding. You're bridging gaps they don't even know exist. That's a very diplomatic way of saying I'm useful despite being incompetent at basic tasks. That's a realistic way of saying you're learning in real time, while also making contributions that matter. Yes, you have gaps, but everyone has gaps, Marcus. The difference is, most people hide theirs better." Chen leaned forward. "I want you on this team. Caldwell didn't force me to say that. Now we need to address the team dynamics. What you overheard was unprofessional and unacceptable." "Please don't," Marcus said quickly. "Don't discipline them on my account. It'll just make things worse. Let me prove myself to them. I'd rather earn their respect than have it mandated." Chen studied him. "That's going to be hard. Everything about this is hard. I'm used to it." That afternoon, the team had a project retrospective meeting. Marcus had been dreading it all day, but when his turn came to share updates, he spoke clearly and without apology. "I know I'm behind on certain technical skills. I'm working on it, and I appreciate the patience you've all shown. What I can bring to this team is a different way of analyzing problems. I see patterns differently because I learned in a different era, under different constraints. That's not better or worse than how you work. It's just different. I'm hoping we can find ways to make that difference useful rather than burdensome." The silence that followed felt eternal. Then Priya said, "I think that's fair. And for what it's worth, your security catch last night saved us from a massive headache. So, thanks." Amanda nodded slowly. Derek said nothing, but the hostility in his expression had shifted slightly toward something that might eventually become respect. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't acceptance, but it was a beginning. Marcus rode the bus home that evening with a strange sense of equilibrium. He'd been honest about his limitations, acknowledged the team's frustrations, and committed to doing better. He'd told his daughter they would face their failures and keep trying. He'd drawn lines with his ex-wife about who got to define his worth. None of it felt like victory, but it felt like forward motion, and for now, that was enough. 3 months after Marcus Webb wrote an algorithm on a whiteboard in an empty conference room, his life had achieved a sort of uneasy balance. Not success, exactly, but survival with moments of clarity. He'd been moved to a different team after Chen advocated for him, a smaller research division focused on theoretical applications rather than production code. The pace was slower, the expectations different. He worked alongside Dr. Lisa Moreno, a mathematician in her 40s, who'd taken an academic path Marcus might have taken in a different life. She treated him as an intellectual equal, which was both refreshing and terrifying. Keisha was enrolled in an alternative program at Seattle Central College, taking courses that would count toward both her high school diploma and college credits. She'd written a formal apology to the students she'd serviced, though Marcus suspected the apology was more strategic than sincere. They were working through it. Some days were better than others. The real change came on a Thursday afternoon when Richard Caldwell summoned Marcus to his office. They hadn't spoken much since that initial presentation. Caldwell had moved on to other projects, other crises, other opportunities. Marcus had been grateful for the distance. Caldwell's corner office was everything Marcus's workspace wasn't. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, minimalist furniture that cost more than cars, art that Marcus suspected was original. The CEO sat behind his desk, looking tired, despite the expensive suit and the carefully maintained tan. "Marcus, thanks for coming up. Sit." Marcus sat, waiting. "I need your opinion on something," Caldwell said. "We've been approached by a larger company. They want to acquire us. The offer is substantial, enough that everyone on the original team, including you, would walk away with life-changing money." Marcus's heart began to hammer. "How much?" "Your share, based on your current equity stake, probably around 200,000 after taxes." The number was incomprehensible. Marcus made 80,000 a year now, more money than he'd ever made, and even that felt like abundance after 18 years of scraping by. 200,000 was generational wealth, college for Keisha without debt, a house maybe, security. "What's the catch?" Marcus asked. Caldwell smiled without humor. "The catch is they'll gut the company, keep the patents, keep some key personnel, but most of the team will be let go within 6 months, including almost certainly you. So I'd get the money but lose the job." "Yes." Marcus thought about his small office, about Lisa Moreno's patient explanations of advanced probability theory, about the slow accumulation of skills and confidence. "What do you want to do?" "I want to say no, build this company into something real. But I'm in the minority. My board, my investors, most of my executive team, they want to take the money." Caldwell leaned back in his chair. "The vote is next week. I wanted to know where you stood." "Why does my opinion matter?" "Because you didn't ask for any of this. You just wanted to clean offices and go home. I dragged you into this world, made you visible. And now I'm asking you to choose between security and potential." Caldwell's voice was bitter. "It's not fair." Marcus looked out the window at the city stretched below, the port, the container ships, the mountains beyond. He thought about his father, who died without ever taking a risk, and his daughter, who'd taken too many for the wrong reasons. "If we don't sell," Marcus said slowly, "what's the alternative? We keep building. We try to stay independent. We might fail. Probably will fail, honestly. Most tech companies do. But if we succeed, we could create something that matters. Not just profit margins, but actual innovation. And my job, safe as any job is in this industry, which is to say, not very, but you'd keep learning, keep contributing." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I spent 18 years being safe. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me fulfilled. It just made me invisible." He met Caldwell's eyes. "I vote to keep building." Caldwell nodded slowly. "Even knowing you might lose everything?" "I don't have everything. I have a chance. That's different." The board vote happened the following Tuesday. Marcus wasn't privy to the details, but the email that went out company-wide that afternoon was terse. After careful consideration, Caldwell Technologies has decided not to pursue the acquisition offer. We remain committed to our mission and our independence. Thank you for your continued dedication. The reactions were mixed. Some people were relieved. Others were furious. Derek sent a company-wide email announcing his resignation. He'd been recruited by the acquiring company and would be leaving at the end of the month. At Derek's goodbye party, mandatory attendance, open bar in the break room, Marcus found himself standing next to his former antagonist by the window. "So you're the reason we're not all rich," Derek said. His tone was almost friendly, loosened by beer. "Caldwell said I was one voice among many." "Yeah, but yours mattered. The janitor who didn't want the money." Derek shook his head. "I respect it, actually, even though I think it's stupid." "You think I should have voted to sell?" "I think you should have taken the certainty. You've got a kid, right? 16, college in 2 years. That 200,000 could have changed her life." Marcus thought about Keisha, about the choices she'd made and the ones she'd have to make. Maybe, or maybe it would have taught her that the smart play is always the safe play. Take the money and run. And that's bad. It's incomplete. She needs to see me take risks too. Calculated ones, not reckless ones. She needs to know that building something matters more than cashing out. Derek finished his beer. "Well, good luck with that. I'm taking my talent and my Stanford degree to a company that will actually pay me what I'm worth." After Derek left the party, Amanda appeared beside Marcus. She was slightly drunk, her professional reserve eroded by 3 glasses of wine. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said. "Derek's going to make twice what we make. He'll be senior engineer in 6 months, principal in 2 years. He'll do very well for himself. And you think I should have followed him? No. I think Derek's going to spend his whole life optimizing for the next salary bump, and he'll retire wealthy and empty." She looked at Marcus with surprising clarity. "You're doing something different. I don't know if it's better, but it's different." 6 months after the board vote, Marcus was working on a theoretical model for quantum data encryption when Lisa Moreno knocked on his office door. "Got a minute?" "Always." She sat down, spreading papers across his desk, their latest research findings. "I'm submitting this to the Journal of Applied Mathematics. I want you as co-author." Marcus stared at the papers. "Lisa, I didn't do enough work to warrant. You provided the foundational insight that made this entire approach possible. That absolutely warrants co-authorship." She smiled. "Besides, it'll be nice to have a paper with a co-author who didn't spend 6 years at Princeton. Diversifies my portfolio." Marcus picked up the draft manuscript, seeing his name, Marcus Webb, Caldwell Technologies Research Division, in the author line. It was a small thing, maybe meaningless in the grand scheme, but it was proof of existence, evidence that he'd contributed something to human knowledge. "Thank you," he said quietly. That evening, he took Keisha to dinner at a Thai restaurant in Capitol Hill. Nothing fancy, but a step up from their usual routine. She was doing well in her alternative program, had even started talking about studying economics or business in college. "Dad, can I ask you something?" She poked at her pad thai. "Do you regret it? Taking that job instead of just staying a janitor?" The Marcus considered the question seriously. "I regret the stress it's caused. I regret the times I've been so exhausted I couldn't be there for you. I regret the anxiety, the self-doubt, the constant feeling of being in over my head." "So yes? But I don't regret trying. I don't regret the person it's forcing me to become. And I don't regret showing you that it's possible to change your life, even when everyone tells you it's too late." Keisha nodded slowly. "My counselor said something similar, about taking risks versus playing it safe." "You have a counselor?" "Court-ordered, part of my probation for the essay thing." She smiled slightly. "It's actually not terrible. She's helping me figure out why I did it, the cheating. And it wasn't just about money. It was about proving I was smart enough to game the system. Are you? Smart enough? Yeah, should I? Probably not. She met his eyes. I'm trying to be more like you, taking the hard path instead of the shortcut. Marcus felt something in his chest tighten. Don't be like me, Keisha. Be better than me, smarter, braver, more honest. Learn from my mistakes, but don't repeat them. What mistakes? Waiting. I waited 20 years to try again. Don't wait. Whatever you want to do, whoever you want to be, start now. Not when it's convenient. Not when you're ready. Now. 2 years later, Marcus was presenting a paper at a mathematics conference in San Francisco. He was still nervous speaking in front of crowds, still felt like an imposter among academics with proper credentials, but he'd learned to use that discomfort as fuel rather than an excuse. Lisa was in the audience, along with Chen and several members of his new team. Caldwell had sent a congratulatory email but couldn't make the trip. The company was in the middle of a major product launch. After the presentation, during the mixer, a young woman approached him. She was maybe 25, nervous, holding her resume like a shield. Mr. Webb, I'm Maria Santos. I'm a master's student at Berkeley, but I didn't do my undergrad at a prestigious school. I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I worked full-time while I studied. I know my CV doesn't look like everyone else's here, but I saw your presentation, and I wanted to introduce myself. Marcus looked at her resume, solid grades, practical experience, a non-traditional path. Why are you telling me this? Because you proved it's possible to succeed even when you don't follow the expected route. And I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe you'd understand what it's like to feel like you don't belong in spaces like this. Marcus thought about conference rooms and whiteboards, about algorithms and second chances, about the distance between who you are and who you might become. I do understand. What are you looking for? A job, an internship, advice. Honestly, I'll take whatever you can offer. Marcus handed back her resume. Send this to me at Caldwell Technologies. We're always looking for people who think differently. And Maria, you do belong in spaces like this. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. After the conference, Marcus walked through San Francisco's financial district, past the towers of tech companies and investment firms, past the homeless encampments and the luxury condos. The city was a study in contrasts, in wealth and poverty existing side by side, in dreams achieved and deferred. He checked his phone. A text from Keisha, who was now a freshman at the University of Washington studying economics. How did the presentation go? Did you knock them dead? Survived. How's school? Hard, but good. Definitely earning my grades this time instead of selling them. Marcus smiled. Another text came through, this one from Denise. John and I are proud of you. Really. Hope the conference went well. They'd made peace, slowly, over the years. Denise had apologized for calling him unqualified. He'd apologized for shutting her out. Co-parenting had become actual cooperation instead of cold warfare. The last text was from Richard Caldwell. Board approved your promotion. Director of Research. Congratulations, you've earned it. Marcus stood on the street corner in San Francisco, reading that text 3 times. Director, not junior developer, not charity case, not the janitor who got lucky. Director. He thought about that night 3 years ago, standing in an empty conference room with a marker in his hand, terrified of making himself visible. He'd written equations on that whiteboard, not knowing they would change his life, not understanding that visibility came with costs and rewards he couldn't imagine. The journey hadn't been clean or triumphant. He'd struggled. He'd wanted to quit 100 times. He'd faced down his own limitations and inadequacies and fears. He'd made mistakes, paid prices, watched opportunities slip away. But he'd also grown. He'd learned. He'd proven to himself more than anyone that transformation was possible, that it was never too late to become more than you were. Marcus put away his phone and started walking toward his hotel. The city lights were coming on, thousands of windows illuminating against the dusk. In each one, someone was living a life, making choices, taking risks or playing it safe, becoming something new or staying carefully the same. He'd made his choice 3 years ago on a Thursday night when exhaustion and curiosity had overcome caution. He'd picked up a marker and made himself visible, knowing it would change everything, hoping it might change him. It had. Not into someone perfect or invulnerable or free from doubt, but into someone who tried, who built, who believed that intelligence and worth weren't fixed by circumstance or job title or the choices you'd made in the past. Marcus Webb was 55 years old. He had a daughter in college, a job that challenged him daily, and a life that bore no resemblance to the one he'd lived just 3 years earlier. He was still learning, still struggling sometimes. Still felt like an imposter in certain moments, but he was visible now, real, present, and that, he'd discovered, was worth every uncomfortable moment of the journey.